to order. And Patrick, if you can read the introduction, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll start with the, let me introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Patrick Eagle, and when I call your name, please confirm you can hear me by verifying that you're present. We'll start with the commissioners. Sandra Brock.
I can hear you. Thank you.
Jonathan Nickerson.
Yes, I can hear you.
And Elizabeth Doherty.
Yes, I can hear you.
And Alicia Bergeron is not present. And staff, Leah.
Present.
And Jen. I see you're present, but.
Present.
For speakers, we have 215 Worcester Street / 1 Hawthorne Street. Brian Fitzgerald. I don't see him in here as a speaker. Paul McManus at Ecotech.
I'm here. I hear you fine. Thank you.
Thanks. Adam Last.
Here as well. I can hear you fine.
Thank you. And for 39 East Street, Erin Cameron.
Here.
And 5 and 11 Rear Wheeler Road, Mark Gates.
Yes, I'm here.
And Robert Ebbard from the Garfield Land Trust.
I'm here.
All right, thanks. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order as extended on June 15th, 2021, February 12th, 2022, and July 16th, 2022. Access information for the public is provided on the town website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute yourself. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. If you are using the dial-in by telephone feature, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. Sandy, I assume you'll introduce speakers on the agenda.
Yep.
Please note that the speakers on the agenda will be introduced. Please note that you will not have screen share privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your queue. After speakers conclude their remarks, we will invite each commissioner by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. And after commissioners have spoken, public comments will be allowed to be spoken by participants. Participants must use the raise hand feature by clicking the hand icon at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar to indicate that they would like to speak. If you are using the dial-in by telephone feature, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when you are called on. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time by their name, and they will be promoted to speak, and public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by roll call vote. And finally, as a reminder, the commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside of this purview need to be addressed to the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with the select board, traffic concerns with the planning boards.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. So just as an FYI to both the Conservation Commission members and the public attending, I happen to be sitting in a parking lot on my iPad, but I can fully participate. I can also see the screen, so we should be all set. I would like to just thank you, Patrick, for the introduction, and also for Jonathan and Betsy. If you could bring up the agenda so that we can take turns when you guys open up different meetings. Once we get to the 7:15, that's in the Dropbox, so we can just kind of rotate around. Before then, Leah, is there any action items that we should be moving on?
Yeah, we can do the first two.
Okay. Patrick, you see the first two?
Meeting minutes.
Sounds
Yep.
great. So hope everyone had a chance to look at it. If you have, can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 6th meeting.
Second.
Do I have a second? We got a motion and a second. Any comments? Quick roll call. Patrick?
Yes.
No, Patrick, any comments or anything?
Oh, no comments. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Jonathan?
No comments.
And then Betsy?
No comments.
We'll do a roll call vote. Now it's time, Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and Betsy.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Second item,
Second item is a request for certificate of, for a complete certificate of compliance for 69 Sunrise Avenue.
any summary, Leah?
Yeah, so we talked about this one a couple months ago. I think we started this conversation. The only thing outstanding at the time was no disturb signage, and we worked through where that could go with the homeowner. That has since been installed, and I can confirm that it was put in where we all discussed it being put in. So I recommend issuing the COC.
Okay, is the homeowner happen to be here, or if not, we'll just move on to a motion.
Yes, she is.
And if she has any questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll
She
just
is
vote
here and
on.
raised her hand, so I'll promote her.
Great, thank you.
I only raised my hand because you asked if I was here and I didn't know if anybody saw me. I don't have any comments to make.
All right, thank you very much. So based on the summary from the agent, do we have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance?
I make a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 69 Sunrise Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
I am also a yes, the motion carries. So for Erica, your certificate of compliance is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, Leah, we can take up?
I have a little bit of an update for you guys about Fisherville Terrace that we started talking about last time. I do have funds in hand for Ecotech to go out and inspect what happened and recommend what to do to restore the resource areas. We are just waiting on Art being able to go out there, which I believe he said will be early next week.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else?
The other two action items are kind of long.
Okay,
We might be able to finish up 39 East Street, which is a continuance, so it could happen at any time.
okay, why don't we do that? We've got 5 minutes and I think we were just waiting on a couple of things. So Patrick, since you happen to be unmuted, I'll ask you if you can read the, open up the public hearing by reading that in.
Lucky me. 39 East Street, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a house addition and foundation replacement at 39 East Street in Grafton, Massachusetts. The application materials, meeting link, and access information are posted to the Conservation Commission website.
all right, great, thank you for doing that. So Leah, was this one the only one we were waiting on for a DEP number?
Right.
And
That
that
is-
was it?
Yeah, we were waiting for the number. The number came in. DEP didn't have any comments. We also took care of the waiver request last time, and that was granted. So I was recommending the standard conditions. The only question I had for you guys is if you wanted to have any conditions regarding the no disturb, such as signage and or a barrier. Jan can pull that plan up so
Sure.
that you guys can see the layout.
I think that would be a little bit tough, but let's bring it up and take a look at it. All right, where would, I'm just curious, where would you even put the signs?
Yeah, I mean, this one, their lawn pretty much goes right up to the pond. So
Yep.
I didn't know if it was the kind of thing that we want along the water's edge on this one, or just forgo it.
What would, I'm just curious, what would the sign say?
I mean, that's true because they usually say it's the no disturb, not that it's the resource area.
Correct. Okay. Let's do a quick roll call of folks as far as if anyone has any comments. Jonathan,
My only comment is I agree with what was just discussed, which the signs seem a little bit excessive considering it's the water line. I don't know if we have a precedent from previous projects that might say we have little signs on posts, or we don't do signs because it destroys the view of the natural resource. That's my only comment, is that I don't think it's necessary, but I want to know if there's a precedent that we've set in past projects.
good question. I'll answer it and then let Leah add to it. I think every once in a while when we have like something like this where we have lawn right up, and this is different because it's a pond and not wetlands. So if it's a wetlands, you could have, say, like, don't disturb the resource area, but this is like wetlands. This is right up a pond. So I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't know, Leah, if we ever had anything even similar to this one.
Yeah, I can't think of a recent example this similar, and I did just check the aerial because I know the one thing I can think of that we've done before is like maybe put some, a little bit into the yard in a place if it's already woods, just to have a little bit of a protected buffer. But I just checked the aerial on this one and it's pretty clear right up to the pond.
Yeah. So Betsy, any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. And Patrick?
No, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, Leah. I can't see a reason why you would add signs on the edge of a pond. That's all. So,
I agree.
great. So if the applicant is on, if you have any questions, we're gonna basically vote you've already got your waiver for working within the 25-foot no disturb. And what we'd be doing is voting to issue the order of conditions. Conditions is what you need.
Right. No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to issue the order of conditions for 39 East Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Betsy,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Do we need to note that it's with the standard conditions?
I would say that would
Minutes.
be appropriate to add to that. Yes.
Okay, so I would just add that we're looking to close the hearing and issue the order with the standard conditions.
Okay, so we'll start. That's been that motion has been added to. So let's go back and do the roll call vote with the additional wording. Betsy,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries and the order is issued. Okay, 716. So I'm going to look to either Jonathan or Betsy. If either one of you have the agenda up, and if you could read in the next public hearing, I'd appreciate that.
I can read it in if you'd like.
Thank you.
And I'll try, because it sounds like I have the same cough that Patrick does. So pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September 20th at 7:15 p.m. via Zoom to act upon a request for determination of applicability for soil excavation and remediation at 215 Worcester Street /1 Hawthorne Street, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information will be posted on the Grafton Conservation website.
All right, thank you very much. So the hearing is open now, and we'll turn to the applicant to present what they have.
Thank you. This is Paul McManus from Ecotech, representing the applicant. I'm with Adam Last, who's the licensed site professional involved in this. If I could share my screen, I think that would be helpful. If that's okay.
So
I
we
can
don't
pull up the
typically,
plan for you.
yeah, we don't allow sharing, but we'll pull up any plan that you have submitted.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was going to start with, we have a combined PDF that we submitted to be page 18 of that. All right. I guess this will suffice. So as was read into the record, this is a property that fronts on both Worcester Street and Hawthorne Street, actually Williams Street as well, to the west. It's the former Grafton dry cleaner facility. As I said, Adam Last is the licensed site professional who's done some extensive assessment out on the property. Identified a former leaching pit where the dry cleaning solution, chlorinated solvents, was discharged. There's contaminated soil and groundwater on the property. You can see in this figure, there's a whole series, kind of right in the center of this figure, a whole series of test borings and monitoring wells, and other evaluation points as part of Adam's work. And basically, the issue relative to the commission is you can see crossing from left to right in this figure, there's a blue line that runs almost horizontal in this figure. And that blue line is actually a long culverted stream that has one entrance, is well to the west, a couple hundred feet to the west of Worcester Street, and the other daylight end of that long culvert is about 100 feet or so south. Excuse me, it was north of Worcester Street, and the other end is south of Hawthorne Street. So even though this pipe is many hundreds of feet long, Adam was astute enough to recognize that it connects to areas of bordering vegetated wetland and therefore is a jurisdictional stream. So there's no discernible wetlands on the property. It's all developed area. But technically speaking, Adam approached me and I told him he was correct, that technically speaking, this long culvert is part of the intermittent stream. So he's proposing under a so-called release abatement measure, or RAM, under the Mass Contingency Plan regs, to excavate contaminated soil and manage that in accordance with the MCP regs. Basically get it off site, bring it to an appropriate facility, and then replace it to existing grade with clean material. So there will be, we're in fairly close proximity. There's another one of the sheets shows the actual excavation area. Maybe you could scroll down. So we're clearly within 100 feet of that culvert. But again, you wouldn't ordinarily even know that there was wetlands jurisdiction here, because you're many hundreds of feet in either direction from where the pipe daylights and where the BVW is. So it's a fairly straightforward operation. Excavate the material, manage it up on the ground surface. Adam's hope, based upon existing groundwater conditions, one good thing about the drought that we've been having is that groundwater levels are very low, and he's hopeful to be able to do this work soon when groundwater levels are still low and they won't have any groundwater to manage. In the event that there is groundwater to manage during the excavation, the proposal would be to pump it into a sealed container on site, and then that would be transported and managed off site again. So no discharge. There's one catch basin in the parking lot that drops into the culvert, and it's proposed that would be protected and not affected during this process. There's also, I should add, one drain line, former drain from the building that would be unearthed as part of this. And it's proposed to expose that and cap that in place in the ground. But the actual culvert that contains the stream would not be affected. Adam, anything that you think we should add to this?
Paul, I think you did a great job summarizing the proposed activities. The area that we're focusing on, as Paul had mentioned, is the green dot on the center of the plan. We've assessed the property, identified the former septic system in that area via test pitting. And what we're looking to do is to excavate the source material from that area and manage it offsite. It should be a relatively straightforward soil excavation project. We already have approval from the receiving facility to transport the material to the receiving facility. And measures will be taken to minimize any impacts to the catch basin that discharges to the culverted stream.
And I think that's all we have in terms of formal presentation. Happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you for that presentation and thank you for submitting this for our review. You know, as you said, it's not obvious, but do appreciate the professionalism in submitting it to us. Well, I'll go around. I have just one quick question, and then I'll go around to the other commissioners. This is more just kind of procedure of how this is done. When you talk about you excavate it, how is that? Is that put into containers, or is it just put into a line dump truck? Or what's the process of getting the contaminated soils, and how is it gotten off the site? I guess I'll ask it that way.
Right, there are a few different ways to manage the material. One is to bring roll-off containers to the site, and to line the roll-off containers, and then to load the material directly into those containers. And prior to leaving the site, the containers would be covered with specialty covers for roll-off containers. Another option is to excavate the material, stage it on an impervious surface such as concrete with polyethylene sheeting beneath it. Cover the pile with polyethylene sheeting, have erosion controls around the perimeter of the pile to minimize any runoff, and at some point during the project to load those soils into trucks for offsite management. Those are the two most common ways soils are handled.
And have you decided which way this one's going to be handled, or you won't know that until you have a contractor?
There is a contractor involved, and they've indicated that those are the two methods that they envision employing at this site.
Okay.
The material that's excavated is a highly regulated material. It's considered hazardous waste because of the nature of the impacts and the source of the impacts. So the facility that this soil is being brought to is up in Canada. And it's regulated as hazardous waste. So it needs to be managed as such.
All right, appreciate that. So I'll go around to the other commissioners to see if they have any questions or comments. Patrick.
My only question was just confirmation that the plan is to not impact the culvert as it exists currently.
That's correct. One of the source evaluation tasks that we performed was we hired a contractor to conduct a geophysical survey of the property to help us identify where the utilities are located and where magnetic anomalies are present, or electromagnetic anomalies present the subsurface. So steps will be taken to minimize any disturbance to the culverted stream and to ensure its integrity during the excavation activities.
Thank you. Anything else, Patrick?
No.
Jonathan?
So just to get an understanding, you mentioned the green dot as the location of the predominant activity on the previous plan that was up there. Is it the entire footprint of the building? Is it just in the green dot? How many yards or tons of soil are being removed, or is that unknown at this time?
During the test pitting assessment activities that were performed back in July of 2021, we identified an underground cesspool type feature with sludge and liquid in it. That feature has an overflow pipe that tees in two different directions from the cesspool. And there's a figure that shows the approximate footprint of excavation. I don't know if we could advance to that or not.
Now,
So
there's
sorry,
one that shows an obvious rectangle. If you could just scroll through.
But to answer your question, Jonathan, there is an approximate footprint for the soil excavation. We have an approximate quantity, but we're going to allow field observations and field screening data guide the limits of excavation.
Mhm.
At this point, we anticipate excavating approximately 100 cubic yards of material.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
All right, this is the.
Thank
figure
you.
that was-
Oh, there's the rectangle. Got it. This is very clear now. Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
And Betsy, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. And so Leah, as far as kind of your review and suggested conditions, are there any of them that you have? I was just looking at them, and you have,
Yeah,
for suggested is, go ahead.
I can read them off if you'd like. I also did want to mention two other things. One is just bear with us, Jan's having some glitchy internet problems, so that's why the visual took a minute. The other thing is that they did also request a waiver because they're technically in our no disturb, so we'll need a vote on that as
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
But I can read those suggested special conditions next if you'd like.
Why don't we take care of the waiver first? Because there's absolutely no way not to have work be done and not be within the 25 foot.
Sure.
So if I can, now I have a blank screen, so I guess there is a little glitchy stuff going on. So I'm the one sitting in a parking lot, okay? So, okay, so
I can
let's
still
continue
see
on.
the screen in the box. I'm not sure if others
Oh,
can.
here we go. It was slow. I'm the glitchy one in the parking lot, so.
Just catching up, that's all.
That's all. Okay, so let's go first up is to make a motion on the waiver of for the work within the 25-foot zone. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to grant the waiver for the 25-foot zone.
Do
Second,
I have a second? Motion is second. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Betsy,
Yes.
Jonathan,
yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. So that waiver is granted. So let's, Leah, get back to the proposed conditions. Can you go through them now?
Sure. So I built these off of the narrative that they submitted. So some of them have been discussed already, but I had 5. One is the existing catch basin on site shall be protected. 2, all contaminated soil shall be immediately placed in the secure containers for removal from the site. 3, work shall be undertaken during dry conditions without the presence or forecast of rain. 4, the pipe connection to the culverted stream from the building's floor shall be cut and permanently capped. And 5, if necessary, the dewatering protocol outlined in the application shall be followed.
All right. Thank you. I just have a couple of suggestions. One is just a small add, and then we'll go back to the applicant. But my kind of 2 small suggestions is when you talk about capping the pipe from that was described in the presentation, what you have in your condition. I would suggest that we get a photo of it being capped, evidence that it's capped,
Okay.
whether that's you seeing it or just the contractor taking a photo of when it's capped. That's just so that we have it in our record. And then the only other one is just updating your condition that you talked about putting into a secure container.
Yep.
So I guess there's an either or to that. And I guess I would go back to the applicant and ask, the wording of that, what if there's any changes to that you think you should make to cover yourself for your two options.
But I'll offer some feedback on that. If we could maintain the flexibility of storing the excavated soils in an impervious area and in a manner consistent with Mass DEP regulations, guidance, and policies, we would appreciate that flexibility.
And so Leah, based on what was described today, as far as, having an impervious area with, an impermeable barrier on the bottom plus it covered, is that something that you're still concerned about?
No,
And then obviously be transferred. Okay.
no, I can add that. I can change that language as suggested.
All right. Appreciate that. I'll do a quick roll call for the conditions to see if anyone has any additional questions or comments on these. Jonathan.
So Sandy, my only question was just with what was being said, if they do end up stockpiling it on, I drive by this place every single day. The whole parking lot's pretty much paved, which is evident from the street. But does the DEP, I'm assuming, mandates do they mandate a specific type of erosion control around the base of the stockpile and a type of cover? Or is it open to interpretation? I'm unfamiliar with it.
And go ahead, please answer.
All right, sorry. What Mass DEP typically requires is that the soils be placed on an impervious surface, whether that be asphalt, concrete, or 6 mil polyethylene sheeting. All of those are considered impermeable surfaces. They require that the soil stockpile be covered with 6 mil polyethylene sheeting as well to help prevent runoff and wind erosion. The polyethylene sheeting is typically weighted down with rocks, sandbags, what have you, tires, and straw wattles or hay bales are typically placed around the perimeter of the stockpile to help mitigate the potential for erosion and runoff from that area.
That's perfectly clear. I don't have any other questions.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Is there a maximum period of time that it can be stored on site?
The answer is 120 days from the point of generation. That's a RCRA EPA requirement.
So I would go back. Great question, Patrick, because I had the same, similar question. I guess to ask the commission if that 120 days is 6 months. A lot can happen in 6 months. Just wondering if the applicant, Adam, if you have something that's reasonable to to get it off in a fairly expedited way without being overly short, what would you say? The longer it sits there, the greater the risk is of something happening in soil or runoff or erosion happening to something, even if it's weighted down with plastic on top of it.
One of the most common reasons for soils to be left on a site for an extended period of time is often the sequence of events is excavate the soil, test the soil, request approval from the receiving facility, coordinate the necessary documentation, then to transport the material to the receiving facility. In this case, we've pre-characterized the material and have already obtained approval from the receiving facility. So we have acceptance from the receiving facility in hand. to minimize the period of time that the materials are stored on site.
And I guess the reason why I'm asking this question is because I'm aware of it doesn't happen immediately, and that the fact that it's pre-characterized is an advantage. I guess what I'm looking to do is to kind of set a little bit lesser time, but not to, the reality is it's how quickly you can get it off of there and out to, and you said it's going to Canada, correct?
Correct.
So I understand the logistics part of that, but 6 months means it's sitting there over the winter time and through spring. And I know it may not be sitting there that long. I guess the question is how can we kind of expedite that, or how can we think about tracking that so we don't have an issue?
Yeah, the period of time, the maximum period of time that we would envision the material being on site would be 3 to 4 months. That's 90 to 120 days. It's highly probable it's not going to be on site for nearly that long, given that all of the approvals have been put in place with respect to the soil. Contractors already lined up a transportation firm that can transport the material up to Canada. If it pleases the commission, we can specify a more narrow time frame for the material to remain on site.
I think that would for me reduce the potential risk. And obviously, if something happens or comes up, you can always come back in front of the commission to get it extended. Obviously, we're happy that this is happening and that the contamination is being removed, so we don't want to impede it. We just like to go a little bit faster. So I would go back to the commissioners if they feel like a 90-day period would be appropriate. And obviously, I don't know, Lee, if you have any comments on that either.
If I can just cut in for a second and say that
Sure.
Brian Fitzgerald has his hand raised. He's the applicant.
Certainly.
Hi, sure. Brian Fitzgerald, I am the owner of the property, and obviously I hear your concern. That's my concern as well. Obviously, we want to, as expeditiously as possible, get the, go right to the heart of the source, get it cleaned up, and get it off-site. That's my comfort level. I've had the contractor under contract for quite a while. We've had off-site meetings and on-site meetings, and I'm quite confident this is all going to happen in a rather quick fashion. And I do understand Adam's concern, various issues that could impact or impede some of the quick transportation. But that has been all of our goals, to get it off-site immediately if we could. So I appreciate your consideration on this.
All right, thank you.
Oh, and by the way, could I add one more thing to it also?
Certainly.
Staging areas came up, and I understand you were concerned with potentially the parking lot or whatever. We do have cement slabs that are there that'll probably be stored on top of, that were there from the previous buildings that I demoed. And that's probably where it'll be stages, right on one of those flat cement slabs. So it should be pretty easy to contain everything as well.
Appreciate that information. Go quickly around again. Patrick, anything else to add?
Nope, nothing else.
Jonathan?
So that being said, with what Brian said and what Adam said, are we looking to limit them to a 90-day window as opposed to a 120-day, or are we still understanding that they're looking to move it expeditiously and that's just the DEP reg? Are we maintaining the 120-day?
I would make the suggestion that we, actually include it as 90 days. And obviously that should be enough time for them to take care of it. And if it doesn't, they can come back. We're not trying to change what DEP says. We're just trying to track it. That's all. So I would suggest a 90-day period. I think Leah has immediately, and I think that's looking to kind of do something reasonable. Betsy, any kind of comments on this?
So I was going to just note so that we're adding on bullet 2, all contaminated soil shall be immediately placed in secure containers for removal from the site within 90 days.
So Leah's going to update that to secure containers to the suggested language that Adam indicated is
Okay.
per the DEP. So That's gonna be
With the stock
updated.
file.
Yes, yep. Okay. Anything else to add, Leah?
Nope.
Anything else from the applicant side?
I don't think so.
All right. So if we could have a motion, oh, excuse me, let me back up 1 second. Just need to open it up to the public to see if anyone here has any comments or questions. And we'll just check the chat line to make sure that no one raises their hands. If no one from the public does, we will then make a motion and vote on this. We'll keep an eye on the participants, see anyone does raise it, but we'll move ahead with a motion. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to issue a negative determination with the above conditions stated and including the amended language on the contaminated soil removal, and close hearing.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
I am also yes, the motion carries. Good luck with your cleanup and thank you for coming in front of us.
Thank
And
you.
how you
Thank you very
doing, Paul?
much.
Paul? Have a good one, Paul.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thanks,
see you.
Good
Take
seeing
care.
you. Bye-bye. Okay. So what's up next, Leah?
The Land Trust Trail Project, 5 and 11 Rear Wheeler Road.
All right, and that's okay to start right away? Is that a continuance?
It sure is.
All right, I'm gonna go around. Jonathan, can you read that in for us?
Yes, let me pull up the sheet. This is a continuance or this is a,
Yep. It's
oh,
the
I'm
first.
sorry. I'm looking through it now.
5 and 11 Wheeler.
Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom to act upon a notice of intent and application for Grafton Wetlands bylaw permit to rebuild a portion of an existing walking trail at 5 and 11 Rear Wheeler Road, Grafton, Mass. The application materials, meeting link, and access information will be posted on the Grafton, Mass Conservation website.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Leah, can you give us an update on this one?
Yeah, so I don't know, you guys remind me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if we've ever had a presentation on this. I think it was just opened and continued. So we're kind of starting from the beginning here.
All right, appreciate that. And I'll look to the applicants to give a presentation then, or discuss the proposed project.
All right, I guess I could start off. Mark Gates with Land Planning. So I think we left this project with you back in April. We started the continuances. We had been considering some possible trail improvements a little bit further down than what the current plan shows. But in the meantime, we had a complaint filed with the Architectural Access Board regarding access to the trailhead. There had been some washed out areas in there, and there was some well-intentioned repairs that were done with gravel, and it left it inaccessible to wheelchairs. So the focus has shifted into dealing with this complaint that was filed and to make this trail, accessible to that extent. So we're looking at about the first 70 feet. If you're familiar with the trail, it's the where it comes out of the parking area, and so it goes down a little bit steep, a little steeper down towards the floodplain. And that area, we're looking to put on a product called Gravel Pave. It's kind of an open connected ring, plastic ring structure that you fill with gravel, and that should prevent the erosion from continuing, and it'll also keep the trail width confined down to 4 feet in width. And so that's about where we're at now. And I don't know if Rob has anything to add to that or.
Yeah, through the chair, if I could add a few things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the gravel pave 2 was suggested by the manufacturer after we had looked at wheelchair accessible pervious trail materials, and the Conservation Commission, lucky for me, I had attended a previous 100 sessions with you guys, welcome back, that down in South Grafton, grass pave was being used on that corner lot near Fisherville Mill. And so you guys had approved that as an approved material. So I suggested that to the Architectural Access Board, and that was upgraded to gravel pave 2, which is more of this trail material instead of a parking lot material. And on July 25th, the Architectural Access Board granted well, they approved material earlier in one finding, and then the Architectural Access Board further found that we could have 2 waivers. One was that this material comes in rolls that are 39 inches wide, a meter, and so we were waived from 48 inches down to the width of that roll, which is approximately 39 inches. And then the other one was that for some reason, trails have to require building ramp access levels, which is limited to a 5% grade. And to avoid disturbing a whole lot more soil and cutting down trees and things, we felt that applying for a waiver for the 7.5% steepest grade was in the interests of conservation near a riverfront. So it's a 7.5% grade instead of the building access ramp required for trails for some reason. So that's where we're at. And the Architectural Access Board gave us till November 30th to get this installed.
All right, thank you very much. I'll go around the commissioners to, well, actually take a step back. Leah, any kind of comments on this now that it's been updated?
So you guys can ignore most of my bullet points on this one because we did get revisions later today that address most of these things. I have a couple notes. One is that on the revised NOI, BLSF is still checked off, even though there's no impacts anymore. So we just need to remove that checkbox. We'll also need a copy of the plan set that you provided stamped. And then, sorry if someone already said this, but they did do a waiver request for the no disturb zone. And then the other thing that I wanted to discuss with the commission was regarding the fees. Way back when this was initially submitted, the fee category that was chosen, the way I read it from the handbook is that it pertains to single family house lots. The wording that was selected in the list was like site work. But when you read in the MACC handbook, like, what do they mean? That's pretty vague. It's talking about site work without a house, but still on a single family house lot. So the category that I had flagged instead would be 2J, which is basically like any other project not called out in DEP's list. So I wanted to get the commission's take on that, because if it's to change, then we will need an additional check as well as DEP to make up the difference.
And what's the difference in the fees?
So this one also has the riverfront multiplier, so it's a little higher than usual, but the category that I believe should have been checked is the $500 category versus the first one is, I forget what the grand total of the first one is, but I know the portion we usually get from it is $67.50 versus the portion we would get from the correct is $262.50.
Okay. So it's an increase of a couple $100.
Yeah, the difference to make up would be $286.25 to the town and $298.75 to DEP.
Okay.
Taking into account what was paid for already.
All right. We can chat about that also. First thing is I'll just go around to the commissioners. Do they have any questions specifically about the grass pave or anything else as far as the proposed plan And then we can move on to the waiver and to the fee that Leah just discussed. So go around to the commissioners, starting with Jonathan.
So I don't remember if it was Rob or Mark that mentioned that they're looking for a waiver to go from 5% to 7.5%. Is that something within, and Sandy, you may know this, or maybe it's Leah that may know this. Is that within our forte, or is that something that the building inspector or someone else has to talk through?
They're in front of MAAB, which is Massachusetts Architectural Board, Architectural Access Board. So that's totally out of our kind of jurisdiction. So as far as the slope goes, the only thing that we would really look at as far as the slope goes is how it relates to erosion. And is there any kind of adverse impacts because of that slope? But as far as, you know, having it acceptable for an accessible route, that's obviously not us, but what we would look at is really looking at the potential, would it erode and so forth at the 7%. And I think, you know, one of the questions, if people are familiar with kind of this particular product, it's basically like a little egg crates that you put the gravel in, so the gravel doesn't move. So I would say if it meets the manufacturer's recommendations for slope, it's, you know, it should be warranty for that. So I don't know, Jonathan, you have a specific question. Is it more about the slope and that's what you're worried about? Or is it the ADA that you're worried about?
I didn't want to traipse too far into ADA without warrant, without, you know, it being in our forte. But if Jan, if you zoom in on the typical cross section on the kind of the right center side of the screen here, whatever, it shows that mesh. And I'm very familiar with this. Can the applicant state whether this is usable at 7% per the manufacturer's spec?
In selecting it, I didn't see anything that would contradict that.
Okay.
I don't recall what the maximum slope they did allow was, but I believe we're well within it.
Okay. That may be a condition worth noting in this, is that it, or maybe that's part of the plans and specifications anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. Off the top of my head, I don't know if it is or is not. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's fine now at that slope, but I think having confirmation of it would be good. So Leah, on that particular one, would that be just a special condition that they submit that information? Or, and if it doesn't meet it, then they have to swap out what? I mean, is this different components of this? You can then get them deeper and that kind of stuff. So there's other options here. So it's not something that if it's not approved for 7%, there isn't like other options to do this. But is that just something, Leah, for a special condition?
Yeah, it certainly can be. Can you just specify to me what it is you would be looking for them to provide?
Certainly, just confirmation from the vendor that this product is designed for a 7% slope. So whatever the
Okay.
maximum slope may be, whether it's 7, 8, or 10%, as long as the slope that they're using here on this project is within the manufacturer's recommendations.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Jonathan?
No, the answer might be pretty evident on the website. I was looking at the Grass Pave website. I'm very familiar with the product from work on a couple different jobs, but no other questions.
All right.
One clarification, if I could.
Certainly.
This is the gravel pave, not the grass pave. So if you're looking at grass pave, this gravel pave is a different product than grass pave.
Okay, because I thought Mark had brought up that you were proposing using grass pave, not gravel pave.
I may, no, it should, so AAB granted us approval to use the gravel pave 2 product. Grass pave was used down in South Grafton on another project. Because you guys had approved that, we went to the vendor and said, hey, Conservation Commission approved grass pave. He said, if you're doing a trail, you should use gravel pave.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said because it sounded like you were using grass pave, but that sounds like it's clarified now.
Thank you for that. Patrick, any questions?
I don't think I have anything else.
All right, thanks. Betsy?
No.
So Leah, can we kind of recap what we need to do? I know we still need to do a waiver and then
Yep.
talk about the fee. Is there anything else as far as conditions that you may have or other things?
Yeah, I had 2 findings and I have 3 conditions. I can read those. Do you want to do that first?
Sure, I should do the conditions, then the findings.
Okay, so the 3 conditions, special conditions that I would have would be for a stamped plan set to be provided prior to commencement of work. Another NOI revision to remove the checkbox for bordering land subject to flooding. And that we shall receive confirmation from the vendor that this material can be utilized on the proposed, on the slope as proposed, that it falls within their recommendations. And
Okay,
should I do the findings?
why don't you do the findings, and then when we eventually get to the motion, we can just reference back to it. So please, yes.
Okay, so I had 2 findings. One was that per 310 CMR 10.056M6, this project does trigger the stormwater standards just to the maximum extent practicable. So hence the use of the gravel paver system. And also per 310 CMR 10.536, this would be considered a limited project. That's the language in the regs about trail projects, basically.
All right, thank you for those findings. So why don't we do a combination of, as far as just a quick review of the proposed conditions, just to check to see if there's anything else we should add to that. And then we'll move on to the waiver. So quick on the conditions. Patrick, any other further comments or recommendations?
No, no comments.
And Betsy, anything else on the on the conditions?
No, I'm just trying to figure out how to make this into a motion.
That we'll be able to abbreviate that since Leah is so nice to read everything into the record. Jonathan, anything
No
else?
other comments. Nope.
And I'll switch it back to the applicant before we get to the waiver and then the fee. Is there anything else that you have as far as comments on those proposed conditions?
No, I don't think we're all set.
Okay, thank you. So as far as the waiver goes, this is a similar waiver that we've already done tonight. It's just grant a waiver for work within the 25-foot no disturb. Obviously, it's the location of the trail that we're dealing with. Do I have a motion for the waiver?
I make a motion to grant the waiver for the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Second. Yeah, motion and a second. Roll call vote. Patrick.
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also yes, the motion carries. So let's chat for a moment about the fee. You kind of heard what Leah said, is it's a trail and it kind of falls underneath a catch-all category as opposed to something with a single family house. So a quick kind of review by the commission. Is there any kind of comments or questions on the fee or recommendations on the fee? Patrick.
I'm not familiar enough with the language on the fees to comment too much, except knowing that, what Leah put out there.
Okay.
So I guess I don't have any.
Appreciate that. Betsy, any kind of comments or questions on the fee?
No.
Okay, and Jonathan.
Have we ever waived these in the past because of the nature of the project? Or, I just don't know if they get a special rate or if there's anything because of the nature of the project, or if it's just the straight fees per the map and that's it. Again, I don't know if it's a precedent there.
It's a good question, and Leah can chime in. And I think, we probably have some leeway over our fee. I don't think we have a leeway over the state fee. I don't know, Leah, if you've had, if we've done this previously.
Every now and then we have something that's exempt, but I believe it has to be like a subdivision of the government. I'm trying to find the
Right.
language right now.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like the town is exempt, but not everything is exempt. Not all state agencies are exempt. No, not town. It's a little bit, yeah, it's, but this is the land trust and they don't fall under that exemption. So,
Okay.
yeah.
No other questions?
Okay, thank you. Before we get back to the applicant, just would like to open it up to the public to see if anyone has any comments or questions. We'll be watching the chat and to see if anyone raises their hand. So if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. Other than that, I'll go back to the applicant and maybe to Rob as far as the fee goes. Leah's just trying to follow the regulations as far as the additional fee. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Well, wait till you see the other. We had to scale back this project because of the discharge pipe downstream. And that's gonna swamp, sorry to use that word, swamp the budget anyway. So, you know, we're already into multiple years of land trust income anyway at this point. Every little bit would help, but this project is destroying the land trust's ability to operate. So we need to get it done.
Okay. Leah, any kind of leeway on this? I don't know of what we can do. Under the local bylaw is one thing. Do we have a fee under the local bylaw?
The bylaw one they paid, I am in agreement with, so that doesn't help us. I'm looking through the state regs right now to see if we have any ability there. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. It's not that we want to take your money. And
Well-
I'm less worried about the town, I'm more worried about the state.
Yeah.
You don't need any more hangups.
Yeah, the delays cost money too, so I don't want to do anything that causes a delay. Remember, remember the car crash that went into the drink in 2019? All of this started that night. They wiped out
Okay.
the land trust sign, went in the drink, that took out a berm that caused erosion. This trail work was to fix the erosion. Then we had an accessibility complaint because work was done. And when you do work, it needs to be accessible.
Gotcha.
So 3 years later, we're still working on this, and it's taking up a lot of resources that other people would like us to use to conserve land.
I understand that, and going through that process is not a simple one. So. And I actually don't know. I just haven't seen, state fees waived previously.
Okay, yeah, I just wouldn't want to put any extra risk on the project. I mean, if you can clearly do it, we'd love it. But if there's a risk to it that it could come back to delay things, that's a pretty big risk to take at this point, because we're under the gun to get something done before the snow
Yep.
flows.
I'm guessing you're not finding anything, Leah?
I'm not having any luck, and when I was questioning which category was chosen at the beginning, I did ask DEP that question. And they were in agreement with changing the category, and they didn't mention anything then about an exemption. I didn't directly ask, but they didn't say anything either, and I'm not finding anything in the regs.
So I would make the suggestion that we go ahead with, voting on this so that we can close it out. And then Leah, if we can maybe check with DEP and actually
Sure.
ask that question,
Yep.
Whether we can retroact it to this one or whether it's just the town fee part that we can have, authority over, just so that we know, because, we don't want to take any more money, but we don't want you to be exposed to something on the state side when they actually look at it either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was the intent of my comment, was, again, not to slow anything down, but simply to, if we could avoid an unnecessary fee, then I think that would be a positive. Well,
Thank you.
this is definitely, we'll definitely follow up on that. But based on this conversation, I'm guessing you just want this closed out at this point. You've got the waiver done. Now it's just up to us to a motion. And I guess the only other question, has anyone raised their hand to any comments from the public?
Nope.
Seeing that, it's time to make a motion.
Okay, doing my best here.
Okay,
I am making a motion to issue a negative determination with the conditions read into the record, and close hearing for 215. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 and 11R Wheeler Road.
all right.
Is
Thank
that
you very much. And obviously, yep, and that also includes the fee. And Leah will follow up on that, but we'll have it, this vote is being made on the fact that that'll have to be revised. So having seen that, let's do a roll call vote. Betsy, since you're unmuted,
I need to
Betsy.
second it, I think. So second.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're correct. I'm trying to get too quickly ahead here. Do I have a second?
Second.
We got a second. We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Betsy,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes on that, and good luck on your restoration and dealing with MAAB. And we'll definitely follow up on the conversation around the fee.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So what's up next, Leah?
So that leaves our 2 ongoing conversations for Highfields subdivision. One is the
Okay.
big package of certificates of compliance that we started on last time, and the other is the drafted conservation restriction. We do have Byron Andrews in the attendees list if Jan can hear me and promote him to speak.
All right, Byron, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead, Leah.
All right, so if we do the certificates of compliance conversation first, the 3 that we left outstanding last time were 164370, which was the one that we cannot locate the order for. We
Okay.
tried many more meeting minutes, DEP, the applicant tried on their side too. We can't find it. Jan did find some notes back in the old minutes that the original filing for this seemed to be for a request for the irrigation to come from withdrawal from the Quinsigamon River. And then later that changed to working with the water district. So it kind of makes it seem like this was then either maybe withdrawn or wrapped into a later filing, maybe 164371, which happened within weeks. We don't have a record explicitly saying either of those things, but that's what it seems like happened. So if we just take these one at a time, my recommendation on that one, seeing as no one can find the document and we don't have book and page information that needs to be closed out at the registry, I would just suggest we issue a letter like stating everything I just said, just to clarify where we think this lands. Do you guys have questions or thoughts on that one?
I don't have an issue with that. I think closing out is important. If a letter will do that, I have no problem with that. I would just ask Byron if that will meet what he needs.
Yes, I think so. I think that's the best approach for it.
Okay, quickly, Patrick, any issues with that?
Makes sense to me.
Jonathan
No issues.
and Betsy?
No issues.
Okay, so on that particular one, Leah, we want to take each one individually, correct?
Sure, yeah, it was easier last time when we called them out.
There's only 3 of them, so this should go all set. So do I have a motion to issue a letter outlining why or the circumstances of this particular order of conditions and the status of it, that it was most likely withdrawn, so that it can be used by the applicant to close it out at the registry, so it can get something on record. Can I have a motion on that?
I'm going. Okay, I'm gonna try. I make a motion to.
I'll give you a hint, just say so moved.
So moved.
Second,
Great, second. All right, so we got a motion and a second. So Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. So as far as the letter goes in that particular order of conditions, that's taken care of. Next one.
We had 164507. That was for 2 house lots. Last time there was an outstanding question about their no disturb signage being installed. I have confirmation that that is the case. So I recommend issuing, that would be a complete COC for 164507.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to issue a COC for 164507. That's it.
So motion,
Okay, second.
motion, second, sorry.
If we have motion and a second, roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes,
Betsy.
Yes.
I am also a yes. That motion carries. Next one.
164591 was the other order encompassing the subdivision as a whole. The questions that we left outstanding last time were about no disturb signage, which we have confirmation has gone in the relevant lots. I had also asked about groundwater recharge. The feedback I received is that some of the lots have it, but most do not. And then the last question I had on that one was documentation for the wetland replication that was done. And Byron, if you can just do a little recap of where that stands. I know you had emailed back later today.
Sure. Yes, we reviewed the plans in the original application and the updated plans from 2006. And in regards to phase 1, there are 3 replication areas. One is behind lots 156 and 157, I believe. Another one is across the street in the lower area there, and another one is down the road. I have not confirmed that the replication areas have been built, but I can go out there and confirm that information and let you know at the next meeting.
All right, that sounds fine. So as far as this one goes, we don't really need to review it. It'll be just moved to the next one. Leah?
Correct. I just didn't know if anyone had any feedback on the groundwater recharge and the way that
So,
that played out.
okay, so I would ask the questions about, where does the roof runoff go? If it's not going into infiltration, if it's going onto a yard, if it's 5 feet from the wetlands or 500 feet from the wetlands. So it's almost like if it goes to the ground and it's a long overland travel, I'm less worried about it. But if it's either piped directly to the wetlands or if it's a short distance, then I would have a concern that you're not getting any water quality treatment and that you're going to be reducing the infiltration, but it depends upon the length it's flowing. So that would be my question on that. How much, I guess the other part of that is to try to retrofit it right now. How much alteration disturbance are you going to do? And I'm guessing a lot of these houses have been sold.
Yeah, the vast majority.
So there's also an issue with having to go back and do that.
Mhm.
I would say whoever the engineer of record should be involved with that analysis about really what does that impact the overall stormwater and what they took into consideration for that. So that would be my questions around that. Patrick, anything else to add to that?
Nothing else to add to that.
Jonathan, anything else you're looking for?
No.
And Betsy,
No.
okay. Anything else, Leah, that, I mean, to me, it's, we're in a tough spot to go back and make them put it in, because they may not have legal access to it, but we also need to know what the impacts are, and that really should be coming from their engineer to kind of assess.
Okay. That's all I had for their COC requests.
Yep. Next is the CR.
Correct. All right, I flagged a few questions from my review of the CR language. First, I'll say I sent it to town council. She has no issues with it. She did want to point out that while this draft mirrors the state's CR language pretty closely, this CR itself does not require state approval the way it's written. It's rare, but that can happen. So she just wanted to call attention to that. And then I had a few things to talk through. I went and looked at the meeting minutes because this has been an ongoing thing for quite a few years. So the things that I pulled out of meeting minutes were back in 2007, there was some conversation around the clubhouse and the parking lot, whether they're in the CR or they're out of the CR. So first I wanted clarification. The way it's now written today, are those in or out?
And are you asking that to us, or are you asking that to Byron?
Byron.
I haven't read the language of that actually. That was Mr. Knappich was working on that. But I can look into it and one of us can respond within a few days.
Okay. The next thing was in 2017, there was talk about the inclusion of language to allow hiking through the golf course areas during off hours. And then posting some signage for the use of the trails being at your own risk since they are near the golf course. So to the commission, are those still things that you'd like to pursue, or would you like to alter those at all?
And I should remember what this was about, but I don't. I'm just thinking, through the golf course areas, is that the trails through the golf course areas, or is that through the golf course itself?
I think the thought then was, I mean, it's the trail network isn't directly in the golf course. They should be two separate things, but I think the idea was just if people are like wandering around or need a cut through or something in the off hours, having language in there that allows them to do so, I think was the intent at that time. But then we also wanted to post, it is a golf course, so do that at your own risk.
Right.
If we want to just try to encourage people to just be on the trails and not the golf course, that's an option too. But since it seemed to be left not quite decided then, I wanted to bring it up now.
Yeah. I wonder if it was talking more about during the off season when the golf course isn't operating.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I would think during season we wouldn't want to promote that at all, actually.
No,
So
I agree.
Agreed, I'm a terrible golf shot. I wouldn't want to hit a hiker.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if it's in, it's in December and it's closed and you cut through, but I don't know, I guess I kind of err on the fact that why do we need to even say to allow it? I mean, I understand we're saying it in the CR, but we don't have to post it and make it public,
Yeah,
I guess.
okay.
Yeah, and I actually have an issue when you say off hours, without specificity on that. You know, because you're not talking about off season, you're talking about off hours.
Right.
What are
I-
off hours? And is there the likelihood in the summertime that someone at 5 o'clock in the morning is hitting balls? So
And I totally agree. Yeah. To me, it should be off. It should be very explicit that it would only be allowed
I think,
if the
and
golf course was closed.
it'd have to be signage that between, let's say, December and March or whatever, and still at your own risk, but it would have to be very articulate.
I think we're opening up too much.
Then why not do it?
That's what I was gonna get towards, was why do we have a matter of safety at hand? Is it because it's in the it's conservation restriction? Is it because it's in a conservation area? You know, there's hazards. We don't want to necessarily, you know, we're not trying to make or not make someone do something here, are we? I mean, it's
So
not
the
necessarily
reason,
control, but
the main
Sorry, go
ahead.
reason
Good, Leah.
it gets brought up is just because the CR outlines things you are still allowed to do and then things you're not allowed to do. So it's kind of sounding like as long as there's language in there that allows people to, like sled, for instance, that's just an example, in the winter on the golf course, and it keeps that invitation available, you guys are okay. You know, you don't want to prohibit anything, is the take
Right.
that I'm hearing.
I would go with what Betsy was saying. It needs to be clearer that it has to be when the golf course is closed for the season. It can't be.
Not operational for the season. So that would be
Okay.
winter months. But I don't know whether, you know, sometimes golf clubs don't close until after Thanksgiving. Others close.
Oh, yeah.
or if you get
And I
70-degree temps in the middle of the winter and they can feasibly let people golf on a safe course, they let them golf. There was a few years ago I golfed at Christmas time because it was beautiful. It was like 60 degrees for a week around Christmas.
Right.
So
We've had unseasonably warm winters where people go and they.
So one of the things that's Leah's saying is in the CR, you either say what you can or cannot do. So we don't want to be totally silent on either way. It's either, no, you can't do it at any time. Or you say, yes, you can do it if, you know, you got a foot of, I'm not saying this specifically, but if there's a foot of snow, if someone goes and sleds on it, I think that the other part is, I don't think we should sign anything. I think it just needs to reside in the CR.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having aphasia. Leah, where there's other towns that have public courses or non-public, I'm thinking town of Westboro, a couple of is there a way for us to see what's in their language that would handle such things?
I can try to look into that. Do you happen to know the name of the course?
West Country Club.
It's the Westboro Country Club is the one that's coming to mind.
Okay.
That has a CR on it. I think that's the trick on this one. And I know they use it during the winter time for sledding because I see it all the time,
Yeah.
Okay.
you know,
I'll check on that and we can circle back on this one.
right? Yeah, but I don't think we should be adding signage to encourage people to
Okay.
cross it. But to your point, if it's not in the CR, then no one has the option of doing it.
Right.
Okay. Does that give you
Okay.
some clarity on that? And
Yeah.
then I know Byron, if you have any comments on that,
No, I don't.
okay, your hand is raised, so I just
Oh.
saw that.
I'll unraise my hand just to avoid any confusion.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Next,
Yeah, I have a few more. I might need to pull this up actually. Or actually, Jan, can you pull up the CR if you can hear me?
Sorry, I missed that.
Can you open the conservation restriction for Highfields?
I can't believe I still have enough battery to be on here, so.
Did you want the plan?
No, the actual document, and then let me find what page I need. Okay, the bottom of page 3, please.
Sorry, which page?
Oh, you need the draft CR, not the plan set. And the bottom of page 3. So the section we're going to be looking at are the reserved rights, so things that we want to make sure folks still can do. So this first one, with the subtitle of public golf course, pertains to their abilities to still operate the golf course, which is reasonable, but I wanted to know if there's any limitations the commission wants to put on anything, just so it doesn't spiral out of control, or if you feel that the language is good the way it is.
Okay.
Can I see paragraph A? It says not prohibited in paragraph A.
Paragraph A is where you say things you don't want to be able to do, so it's prohibited.
Okay.
Activities are in A, and then reserved rights are in B.
Okay.
So can you just go to the next page to finish under 1?
Let me text Jan. She's having audio problems really bad.
Sorry,
Catching
where do
up
you need me
now.
to scroll?
Just down a bit.
There you go.
Stop.
Perfect.
Silly question, or maybe, but a lot of people get married at golf courses and have events at golf courses. Does it need to talk to that, or am I missing that? Or is that not in our jurisdiction?
I think that's what Leah's talking about is how it's written in something like that, where it talks about associated with customary use of property as a public for-profit golf course. Weddings at golf courses are really common. So, then it's do you need to add every event, wedding, retirements, outings, corporate outings? Do we need to list all of that? Or is that, typical of what the a golf course would do? So that's, it's a good question. That's, I think, what Leah's trying to get to is how detailed do we get with that list of activities associated with a golf course?
It's a good question. I don't know. This is kind of uncharted territory, but in the section 1 or the above section A, can we generally limit, activities that would impact the resource area, or like, is that a generic thing? Like if they're having a wedding, but they're trying to launch 1 million red balloons or something, and that's going to impact the resource area because they're going to get into the resource area. Like, can we generically put, like, people do silly things. So
Right.
I get where you're going, Leah, but if we list off everything, like all these different events, like we'll be here until tomorrow morning.
Right.
trying to list
And we'll
them all.
still miss something. That's innocent, and that wouldn't matter. Can you go up to A?
One of the terms that I would use is that would a reasonable person think that this is a golf course activity? And the idea of having a reasonable person, a reasonable statement, again, it allows for, hey, they're trying to launch 1 million red balloons from this golf course as part of a gender reveal, we could, that would be prohibited, but we wouldn't. I'm just trying to get to a term that we can use to.
Something is unreasonable or detrimental to the environment or the grounds. So, you know,
Well, this,
I
similar
think
to this
that-
one, number 5, look at number 5, activities detrimental to drainage, flood control, water conservation, water quality, erosion control, soil conservation,
exactly.
or archaeology. So,
I think that covers a lot.
maybe-
11 also, I think.
if you go down to 11 then. But I think, Jonathan, that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yep. I agree with him because I'm sitting there thinking, oh, someone releases, I don't know, 100 doves and there's poop
Invasive.
going.
Okay, here it is, with is inconsistent with the purpose of this conservation restriction, or would
Okay.
materially alter or impair significant passive outdoor recreation and conservation interests. Is that the general type of wording you're looking for?
Yeah, I think those two are great. I just didn't know, and I didn't have a direct answer myself, but I didn't know if there was anything, glaringly obvious related to a golf course that we wanted to specifically say, no, don't, turn it into Six Flags or something. But I think these other kind of catch-all prohibitions do definitely help.
Yeah. And I'm sure that these were picked up from some other town's public.
It's based on the state.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
based on the state one, so my guess is there's case law behind those type
So,
of, that type
yeah,
of
we
wording.
could suck our brains into oblivion trying to come up with every scenario and we'd still miss something.
Okay.
And that's kind of why the review of our town council is important, but also just good for us to look at it, to understand it. And again, I think everyone's intention's pretty straightforward. It's when the next person who owns it decides to do, I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I was going to say like Frisbee golf or something. And I don't know if that's detrimental. I don't know. But
So while we're on this specific topic, if we skip down to reserved right number 8. So under section B, number 8, it's talking about their ability to use soil, etc., for golf course maintenance. And I flagged that one because it seemed like a slippery slope to then be kind of cutting into the open space for resources. But if we feel like those two prohibitions we found up above keep it in check, then that's okay too.
Construction, repair, maintenance, or relocation of golf holes.
yeah, I mean, that's just if someone moves a whole location, instead of, importing everything, you just reuse what's there. And
Right.
if there's
Right.
It may behoove us to add the word minor adjustments or something. So if they're moving something, if they're reconfiguring a whole area of the golf course and digging everything up, then that might be major. But if they're sliding a hole over 5 feet to the right because something's eroding differently, is that minor? And then minor and major could be part of the precedent.
So I
I
actually,
would,
sorry, go
ahead,
ahead. I had
I
a
was-
different, sorry, I had a different idea in my head. I was thinking, there is the golf course, but there is also some woods. And I was thinking that the wording on this kind of lets them go, oh, I need, a truck full of dirt for whatever on the golf course. I'm going to go get that dirt from the woods. That's kind of what I was envisioning. So not necessarily like a relocation strictly in the golf course, but does this allow taking from the open space for the golf course? That's what I was concerned about.
And I don't read it like that. And to be honest, the only change I would make to what I think Jonathan was saying, is that when it says premises solely for the use in construction, repair, maintenance, and relocation, take out the word construction, premises solely for the use of in the repair, maintenance, and relocation of golf holes. That's minor. So then we don't have to get into the minor, major kind of stuff. But construction to me means something different than repair and maintenance.
Why couldn't you saying as relates or to the Wetlands Protection Act and or stormwater, so that whatever they're doing, if it's major, they have to come and file an NOI.
But they would have to file an NOI anyways if they're doing something.
So then why
Nothing in here.
worry if they have to file an NOI? Because we would.
I think what Lee is saying, if there's an upland area that's within the restriction, but not within a buffer zone,
Mhm.
and they decide to go in and take, 10 yards of dirt to do something else on the site, then
Right.
that's prohibited. And so I think the question is does what's prohibited, outweigh this? And then from what Jonathan was saying, which I kind of agree with him, I'm not in love with the word construction because when I hear the word construction, that's something new, not done. But when I hear repair, maintenance, and relocation, that's minor work.
Yeah. Then
So
can't you take the whole thing, all of 8, and say no work, minor or major? Maybe
no,
that.
because you can't
It's no
maintain a
work at
golf
all.
course. You can't.
Right.
I mean, they're constantly like with the greens, sanding it. You do have erosion on a golf course. You have to repair it. I mean, it's just like people are out there and whacking the ball, and not everyone hits clean balls, and there's big divots, and there's just routine maintenance that is done
I get it.
on a golf course. But
So what's
we
our
don't
solution?
to
Why
take
don't-
to,
Take the word
Go ahead.
construction out, I think, is a start.
Yeah, why don't I propose that to their attorney and see if it's, troublesome for what they're intending to accomplish
Right.
here.
Say a gravel path, cart path erodes, they're going to want to be able to repair it so they can get the
No, I
carts
get
over it.
that. So it's the word construction.
Yeah.
All right.
It just,
Right.
it indicates a larger thing. And I agree, Sandy, repair, maintenance, and relocation are minor activities or seemingly minor activities and needed. So construction is kind of the one that doesn't belong in that, in my opinion.
Right. It's the one that puts red flags up for us to say, what does that mean?
Right, because that could be a lot of things. So
That could be, adding 2 more tee boxes that are 20 feet in the air or something. And that's a construction project. And that's not really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to
Anything
make a
else, Leah?
motion on this? No.
I have 2 more comments. One is just kind of an FYI. They have in the reserved right list, number 6, they talk about the ability to operate ADA vehicles in the open space. So I'm just going to suggest that then in the prohibited list, number 6, include an exception for the same ADA vehicles, just so it's consistent in both. And there isn't a question of whether they conflict with each other or not. And then the last thing I have is reserved right number 2. Talks about easements for construction of roads and utilities. And so I'll probably have to ask their attorney, but where are they talking about? And
I don't think that's the right number 2.
no, the reserved rights. Are we in the reserved rights or the prohibited?
No, reserve, well,
You're in prohibited, so you need to go
Alright.
down below.
Yep,
to
we
be-
need B2.
Because we ain't allowing mining and excavation.
Yeah, there it is. Oh,
Too far.
I can read it out while she's finding it. So it says, flexible residential housing, the right to impose upon the premises temporary easements for the construction, maintenance, and repair of roads and utilities serving the adjacent and surrounding flexible residential housing development and sewer or drainage facilities serving said development or adjacent land. Any such easement shall be no larger than reasonably necessary.
So I guess I think it's a good question, because what goes across a golf course? Or or what's within the CR that they have utilities or something, they would need a temporary easement.
Right.
And so I would get clarification, and I agree with you,
Okay.
Leah, in asking that. I think I understand why it's there. We just need a little bit more clarification on it.
And it
And what
might,
does temporary mean?
right. I almost got the impression it might have been in there from when this document was started years ago and the subdivision wasn't really done yet. Now it's really close to done, so
Right.
they might not need it anymore, but I will ask and find out.
Yeah, they might need it for utilities, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
All right.
The only other thing I had was another reminder for you, Sandy, that we really need that notary form thing filled out.
Yeah.
I know you're not back yet, but
Yep.
if we can schedule that when you're available.
Okay. Yeah, I thought about it too late on Friday, but if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist to me.
Okay.
My memory just doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, we'll bug you some more. Unfortunately,
Okay.
it's got to be the chair, or we would have bugged somebody else.
I appreciate that. No problem. All right. Anything else?
That's all I have.
I still got an hour and a half drive home, so
Where is you?
I just came over the ferry from Nantucket. So I was out there for work. So I'm in a parking lot at a Dunkin' Donuts
Why don't you just stay in Hyannis for the night?
because I was hoping to get over here before and get home, but it didn't happen. So, and I just can't be away for a couple of days from work. Creates havoc for the rest of the week for me.
No.
So, all right. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for chipping
Yeah.
in and helping read things and so forth. I appreciate it.
I will not.
Anything else, Leah?
Nope.
No, Leah, I
Okay.
will not be here for the October 4th meeting,
Okay.
just so you know.
And I believe Sandy, you will not either.
Correct. I am on PTO. I will be in Nantucket, but Nantucket for fun.
Okay. So
Has anyone heard from Alicia?
for a handful of meetings, she gives a maybe and then backs out.
Yeah.
So
We need to have a separate conversation on that at a different
Yeah.
time under different conditions.
Yep. And I'm not going to put Jonathan and Patrick on the spot right now, so don't answer me right now. But if the two of you can just let us know your availability for 10-4, because we were planning on bringing the rec commission to our meeting to all formulate our plan for town meeting for the park. So if we can't get a quorum that night, it'll be really important to reschedule that. So don't have to answer me now, but just shoot me an email. Let me know if you think you'll be there, and we'll talk to Alicia too.
Okay. For the time being, I can say I'm not in DC. I'm not traveling, so it should be good to go on the
Okay.
4th. I'll confirm it though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, Leah. Leah.
Yeah.
I actually may be here. We're coming back from Truro that day. So, you know what? Count me in. We're going away for our anniversary, but count me in. I thought we weren't coming back till Wednesday.
Okay.
Close the meeting and let Sandy get on the road.
What?
Should we close the meeting and let Sandy get on the road?
I like that thought.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, roll call, Patrick,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes,
Betsy.
Yes.
I am also a yes.